This is a dramatization of a selection from one of Karl Marx's earlier manuscripts, Private Property and Communism, which is a meditation on the inextricability of the human individual from the social and vice versa. This section is meant to align with pages 84 through 88 of the Marx-Engels Reader, but is sourced from text found on Marxists.org. It should be noted that there are some significant differences in the translation I sourced from the Marx-Engels Reader, which are mainly grammatical decisions which do not seem to substantially change the spirit of the text but will be very conspicuous if you are reading along to the audio. For example, the reader uses the word transcendence where the following text uses supersession. As an aside, in my view, the concept of transcendence has other philosophical connotations which are less relevant to this particular discourse, thus I chose to keep supersession. My apologies for the extended housekeeping. Without further ado, I turn now to Adam Mad, this channel's creator, for the voice of Karl Marx.
It is easy to see how necessary it is for the whole revolutionary movement to find both its empirical and its theoretical basis in the movement of private property, or, to be exact, of the economy. This material, immediately sensuous private property, is the material, sensuous expression of estranged human life. Its movement, production and consumption, is the sensuous revelation of the movement of all previous production, i.e., the realization or reality of man. Religion, the family, the state, law, morality, science, art, etc., are only particular modes of production and therefore come under its general law. The positive supersession of private property, as the appropriation of human life, is therefore the positive supersession of all estrangement, and the return of man from religion, the family, the state, etc., to his human, i.e., social, existence. Religious estrangement as such takes place only in the sphere of consciousness, of man's inner life, but economic estrangement is that of real life. Its supersession therefore embraces both aspects. Clearly, the nature of the movement in different countries initially depends on whether the actual and acknowledged life of the people has its being more in consciousness or in the external world, in ideal or in real life. Communism begins with atheism, but atheism is initially far from being communism, and is, for the most part, an abstraction. The philanthropy of atheism is therefore at first nothing more than an abstract philosophical philanthropy, while that of communism is at once real and directly bent towards action. We have seen how, assuming the positive supersession of private property, man produces man, himself and other men, how the object, which is the direct activity of his individuality, is at the same time his existence for other men, their existence and their existence for him. Similarly, however, both the material of labor and man as subject are the starting point as well as the outcome of the movement. And the historical necessity of private property lies precisely in the fact that they must be this starting point. So the social character is the general character of the whole movement. Just as society itself produces man as man, so it is produced by him. Activity and consumption, both in their content and in their mode of existence, are social activity and social consumption. The human essence of nature exists only for social man, for only here does nature exist for him as a bond with other men, as his existence for others and their existence for him, as the vital element of human reality. Only here does it exist as the basis of his own human existence. Only here has his natural existence become his human existence and nature become man for him. Society is therefore the perfected unity and essence of man with nature, the true resurrection of nature, the realized naturalism of man and the realized humanism of nature.
Marx's footnote: prostitution is only a particular expression of the universal prostitution of the worker, and since prostitution is a relationship which includes not only the prostituted but also the prostituter, whose infamy is even greater, the capitalist is also included in this category.
Social activity and social consumption by no means exist solely in the form of a directly communal activity and a directly communal consumption, even though communal activity and communal consumption, i.e., activity and consumption that express and confirm themselves directly in real association with other men, occur wherever that direct expression of sociality springs from the essential nature of the content of the activity and is appropriate to the nature of the consumption. But even if I am active in the field of science, etc., an activity which I am seldom able to perform in direct association with other men, I am still socially active because I am active as a man. It is not only the material of my activity, including even the language in which the thinker is active, which I receive as a social product. My own existence is social activity. Therefore, what I create from myself I create for society, conscious of myself as a social being. My universal consciousness is only the theoretical form of that whose living form is the real community, society, whereas at present universal consciousness is an abstraction from real life and is such in hostile opposition to it. Hence the activity of my universal consciousness, as activity, is my theoretical existence as a social being. It is, above all, necessary to avoid once more establishing society as an abstraction over against the individual. The individual is the social being, his vital expression, even when it does not appear in the direct form of a communal expression, conceived in association with other men, is therefore an expression and confirmation of social life. Man's individual and species life are not two distinct things, however much, and this is necessarily so. The mode of existence of individual life is a more particular or a more general mode of the species life, or species life a more particular or more general individual life. In his consciousness of species, man confirms his real social life and merely repeats in thought his actual existence. Conversely, species being confirms itself in species consciousness and exists for itself in its universality, as a thinking being. Man, however much he may therefore be a particular individual, and it is just this particularity which makes him an individual totality, the ideal totality, the subjective existence of thought and experienced society for itself. He also exists in reality as the contemplation and true enjoyment of social existence and as a totality of vital human expression. It is true that thought and being are distinct, but at the same time they are in unity with one another. Death appears as the harsh victory of the species over the particular individual, and seemingly contradicts their unity, but the particular individual is only a particular species being, and, as such, mortal. For, just as private property is only the sensuous expression of the fact that man becomes objective for himself and at the same time becomes an alien and inhuman object for himself, that his expression of life is his alienation of life, and that his realization is a loss of reality, an alien reality, so the positive supersession of private property, i.e., the sensuous appropriation of the human essence and human life, of objective man and of human works by and for man, should not be understood only in the sense of direct, one-sided consumption, of possession, of having. Man appropriates his integral essence in an integral way as a total man. All his human relations to the world, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, thinking, contemplating, sensing, wanting, acting, loving, in short, all the organs of his individuality, like the organs which are directly communal in form, are in their objective approach or in their approach to the object the appropriation of that object. This appropriation of human reality, their approach to the object, is the confirmation of human reality.
Marx's note here: it is therefore just as varied as the determinations of the human essence and activities.
It is human effectiveness and human suffering, for suffering, humanly conceived, is an enjoyment of the self for man. Private property has made us so stupid and one-sided that an object is only ours when we have it, when it exists for us as capital, or when we directly possess, eat, drink, wear, inhabit it, etc. In short, when we use it. Although private property conceives all these immediate realizations of possession only as means of life, in the life they serve is the life of private property, labor, and capitalization. Therefore all the physical and intellectual senses have been replaced by the simple estrangement of all these senses, the sense of having. So that it might give birth to its inner wealth, human nature had to be reduced to this absolute poverty. The supersession of private property is therefore the complete emancipation of all human senses and attributes. But it is this emancipation precisely because these senses and attributes have become human, subjectively as well as objectively. The eye has become a human eye, just as its object has become a social, human object, made by man for man. The senses have therefore become theoreticians in their immediate praxis. They relate to the thing for its own sake, but the thing itself is an objective human relation to itself and to man, and vice versa.
Marx's note here: in practice I can only relate myself to a thing in a human way if the thing is related in a human way to man.
Need or employment have therefore lost their egoistic nature, and nature has lost its mere utility in the sense that its use has become human use.
This was a dramatization of a selection from one of Karl Marx's earlier manuscripts, Private Property and Communism, which is a meditation on the inextricability of the human individual from the social. If you found this text useful, please do any of the YouTube magic you feel comfortable with which might elevate our exposure, and consequently help others. Thank you for your labor and attention.